Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Unrestricted. Today we have a bit more of a casual episode. We're not going to have too much structure this week. We're just going to be giving a quick update on the NFL running back situation. Trent is going to do a quick UFC update, and then we're going to go into more of a free-flowing discussion. We both have two random prompts that we want to ask the other person that they are unaware of right now, and it's going to be kind of a spitball, just random, right off the dome thoughts on these prompts, and probably a bit of a shorter episode today, but NFL is coming back in 2 weeks. NBA is coming back shortly. Maybe some more offseason content coming soon. So sports are really going to start heating up. This will be the last episode that's not too interesting of prompts, but I think we have a pretty nice format to spice things up this time. So, Trent, do you want to start with UFC?
Yeah, coming into kind of the back end of the summer, getting back into NFL stuff and getting out of this dead zone. We got just kind of blessed with this past UFC card. And getting to see Sean O'Malley just do the absolute one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the UFC as far as calling their shot from an early stage in their career and then seeing it come to fruition and just absolutely like scripting it in his head and telling everyone about it is just I've never really seen anything like that in my lifetime personally, UFC wise. I wasn't a huge UFC fan yet when McGregor did it, and I was a little younger. But, oh, man, it was awesome to see. He's really the first fighter I've got to see fight his first few bouts in the UFC and then rise all the way to the point of champion. And then the way he did it against Aljamain Sterling, who's a massive grappler, and O'Malley's never had the opportunity to really prove that he can beat a grappler and face a high-tier player like that in the bantamweight division. And who's arguably the greatest bantamweight ever in Aljamain Sterling, which he says himself. And then to come out and do that in that fashion in the second round and duck that punch perfectly out of length and then throw that back-footed cross is just – there's nothing that I've seen that's that picture perfect. Outside of maybe the Adesanya knockout on – Poetan, like maybe that was like kind of comparable the way like the story background of it and then just seeing things going picture perfect. But wow, like I have nothing but motivation coming from watching that, and he's definitely like without a doubt either my favorite or tied for favorite UFC fighter now just after watching that. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the same way. And I was watching a Pat McAfee interview, and they were talking about how like now Boston is like forever going to be tied to him and massive fans of him. So maybe like 5 years down the line, like in the midst of his reign, when he gets to return to Boston, will just be like a crazy showing. And then his next fight, hypothetically, they're just kind of talking about it being in December against Cheeto. But that would hypothetically be with the McGregor Chandler fight as well as the co-main. And so McGregor and O'Malley were kind of talking in their like Twitter DMs about potentially like throwing out a fight. You have to go watch the Pat McAfee interview about it, and it specifically talks about it, and O'Malley talks about it. But man, if that happened, I might not be sitting at home. I might be there. It's somehow, some way, shape, or form. I will find a way to be there because that is a once in a lifetime. It's essentially the end of McGregor's career. Next maximum of 3 fights probably left. More realistically, 1 or 2, but that'll just be absolutely electric. And I've wanted to talk about it for like the last like 2 weeks, but haven't really had anybody to talk to about it. So yeah.
Have you ever been to a UFC event?
No, but there's nothing else that's higher up there on what my to-do list sports wise. Like I have to. I wanted to for so long, and I need to feel it in person. Yeah, I definitely want to.
Yeah, I definitely think that'd be a super cool experience. Yeah, definitely pretty high on mine as well, to be honest. I think that'd be just unlike any other sports atmosphere.
Yeah, it would just be like the amount of famous people and just the electricity of it, and to see that up close. Like I could imagine, I mean, so I did MMA for a while, and I watched people spar just kind of like between like warm-ups and stuff like that. I never really sparred. I didn't really want to get hit in the face, but like seeing that stuff live is a different wave. Like it's not the same as seeing it on TV at all. Just to actually like hear the contact of like a fist against someone's skull, and just like how loud a leg kick is and with a check, like it's just absolutely crazy. Yeah. So seeing that in person, it's so tough to get tickets because it's so
Yeah,
expensive. And
yeah, for
it's
sure.
only a monthly or really a good card every 2 or 3 months. So
Mm,
yeah, I mean, even going to like just a regular fight night, I think would be really cool because it's probably cheaper. Because really,
yeah,
one of the coolest things about going to that a card like that too is like you wouldn't think about is the undercard fights would be so much more entertaining in person
yeah,
as compared to just like
100%.
watching it on TV. Like it would be electric, like every
Yeah,
single fight, and they start at like 2 or 3. If like the main event is like slated to be at 7, even though it'll actually be at like 9 or 10. So you're gonna get to watch 7 hours of essentially fighting if you go early. Like,
yeah,
dude, that's
yeah,
that's the pinnacle.
yeah.
So
So who knows? I mean, maybe you guys will get some Trent UFC in-person content coming soon. Who knows?
that'd be awesome. I'd take a camera in there, get a little footage too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. All right, transitioning into the running back market, a few things have happened over the last couple weeks. Not too needle shifting, but some things to note. Josh Jacobs signed a 1-year deal. I believe is worth 13 million, 12 million,
Yeah,
maybe
12,
somewhere.
13, yeah.
Yeah. So Josh Jacobs signs a 1-year deal. That was pretty expected, in my opinion. I didn't think he was going to hold out into the season. I think he's at a point in his career where it wouldn't make too much sense to hold out, and he did what he could do. He held out the longest he could, but a 1-year, $13 million deal, it's about what Saquon Barkley got. I think that makes sense for Josh Jacobs, given the current running back market. Something more interesting to potentially note is the whole Jonathan Taylor situation. So the Colts have given Jonathan Taylor permission to seek a trade. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, pretty much just the last week, this saga has been playing out with the Miami Dolphins being the primary candidate, I guess, for trading. The Colts, of course, are asking for a first-round pick in return. I pretty much think everybody knows that that's not going to happen at this point. It's probably going to be, if he is to get traded, some combination of a second and maybe a fifth, something like that. But even then, I think that's still a bit steep for Jonathan Taylor, but we'll see. The Colts gave him till tomorrow to find trade partner because I believe that's the day that final rosters need to be kind of in place. So taking this down to the wire like it's kind of expected. I don't know. Trent, what do you think? What's your prediction on this whole thing? Because I think it's pretty hard to get a read one way or another. Do you think Jonathan Taylor is going to be playing for the Dolphins this year? Do you think he's going to be playing for a third team? Or do you think he suits up for the Colts or neither, I guess?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of divert that question to just more so what I want than what I'm gonna predict because that Colts team is just so unpredictable at this point, and Jonathan Taylor in general, just that whole situation. I'd love to see him on the Dolphins. I just think it would put because everyone's like naturally saying the Dolphins are probably gonna be third in their division up to this point, and I think if you add him, like it's all of a sudden it's like who's gonna get first. I already think it should be kind of who's going to get first. I still think the Dolphins could potentially defend for it, especially if like somehow their defense is like a little bit more prominent. But it'd be cool if they got him. They're an electric team. I think Mike McDaniels is awesome. I love watching them. I'm definitely a fan of them. So I hope it's the Dolphins. And yeah. I have no clue what is actually going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see him on the Dolphins. I mean, the thing about them kind of being just penciled in for third in the division, I think that's primarily based on QB play, right? I mean, obviously Josh Allen, an MVP level quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, he's done it before. Everybody knows how good Aaron Rodgers is, as well as that roster. There's a lot of spotlight on them right now. The Dolphins they feel a little bit like the odd man out of those three, but probably for unfair reasons, right? I mean, their rosters is arguably just as good as anyone's in the division. They have tremendous weapons. It's just the one thing you'd point to is the quarterback play. Tua, I'm a fan of. I believe in Tua as a franchise quarterback, but let's be real, he's not Josh Allen. He just can't do things that Josh Allen can do. And Aaron Rodgers, like we said, multi-time MVP. He's a vet. He's going to have his team playing efficiently. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to probably have a great season for the Jets. So what could offset this would be a potential Jonathan Taylor trade, which would make this offense pretty much the best offense in the NFL. I mean, just giving Tua that supporting cast, this offense is going to score in bunches. They're going to be able to hang with anybody, including the Chiefs, including the Bills. They're just going to be able to score that many points against any defense with those weapons. So I think that'd be super cool to see. The run game for the Dolphins has been pretty lackluster the last couple of seasons with kind of just a rotating cast of pretty mediocre running backs. Raheem Mostert, they bring in Devon Achane. He's third on the depth chart right now. I don't think he's going to do too much in his rookie year. So I don't think they lose too much. Bring in Jonathan Taylor. I think it's a pretty low risk situation. I mean, obviously a second and a fifth is a lot of draft capital in today's NFL. That is not a low asking price by any means. And I don't know if in a vacuum, Jonathan Taylor is really worth a second round pick and a fifth round pick. But for this team, I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, you got to go, you have an opportunity to go after a star running back and get him on the roster this year and add to an already electric offense. I think you pull the trigger if that is an offer that the Colts can get behind. In terms of an actual prediction, I kind of think the Colts are going to keep him, man. Like, that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. I don't know.
I'd say the same thing. I totally would. I agree.
It's just at this point, I just think we're just going to see tomorrow, no trade partner. Jonathan Taylor's on the Colts, and then it's going to be another. Is he going to hold out? I don't think he's going to hold out. I think it's going to be a situation where he plays for them. If he's banged up just the slightest amount, he's got a hamstring or anything, he's going to sit out a lot of games. He's going to protect his body the most he can. It's just going to be a bad situation for the Colts and for Jonathan Taylor and for everybody involved, really. And honestly, as unfortunate as it is, I think that's the most likely outcome. So we'll see. We'll see pretty much by tomorrow, because that is the day that the final rosters have to be made. But right now, it's kind of where we're at. I did see a report today that a third team could be making a very real play for Jonathan Taylor. So do you have any suspicions who that would be? Do you have any third teams that you'd like to see him go to?
Not really off the top of my head. I mean, naturally, I always want to say the Chiefs or the Bills, just because I want to see one of those two teams just have like a star back. Just the same argument with exact same argument with the Dolphins. It's like you add a star back. I look at the Chiefs when they had like Kareem Hunt when he had 1,300 yards as a rookie.
Yeah,
like that'd just be so insane.
Yeah.
More so the Bills, because I kind of want to see them get over the hump, and I want to see them win a championship and stop being cursed. So
yeah,
and I guess the Bills kind of made a little bit of a splash, getting like Damian Harris, which I actually think is an underrated addition. Like I really, really do. And if Dalton Kincaid is, I mean, a 700-yard guy, like those two additions, maybe gets him over the hump, and then also having Von Miller back.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the Bills a lot lately, and I think I've been kind of underrating them. I think they're probably my favorite to win the division at this point. It's a safe pick, but as the Jets get more and more hype, I think the Bills are getting more and more forgotten about. And I was on the Jets hype train 100%, and I still am to an extent, but I think I was kind of sleeping on the Bills a little too much. I'm really excited to see them this season.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, with that, we can get into our prompts. So I wrote a few down. I wrote a few more than two down. I think you can answer these pretty fast, but I'll just get into my first one real quick. And that is, what do you think is the most valuable archetype in today's NBA?
Oh my, that's a phenomenal question. First and foremost, most importantly, is a shooter. So I'll just start off and build one, and then I'll divert from that if it's like kind of a mold that's already set. So you have to be a shooter like that. It's like kind of non-negotiable. Like sometimes not, but what position are we talking about too? We talking guard? We talking?
I mean, I think like if you are starting, if you're starting a franchise, what does the ideal player look like?
Cool. Okay, so it probably above 6'7". I don't think it has to be necessarily that far above 6'7", like Kawhi. Like Kawhi's 6'7", right? So I think it has to be a defender. It absolutely has to be a defender. Like non-negotiable. Like the defender probably more important than shooter in a weird way. Like if it's your number one guy, like you could get by having a high mid-range guy like a DeMar DeRozan. Like imagine if DeMar DeRozan was as good of a defender as Kawhi Leonard. Like he would all of a sudden like a Jimmy Butler.
I mean, that just is Kawhi Leonard. I feel like.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, Kawhi can still wet threes. Like that's the other thing. But so I mean, I guess like naturally, like kind of like tailoring into a Kawhi that's not injury prone. So like those are the three things right there. So defender, you have to be a shooter at some range, like very automatic, and then healthy. Like that to me, like it's probably health, defense, and then a 20-point per game, like pretty easily. Like you have to be able to score in the crunch time. You have to be able to be a primary ball handler, and just kind of do multiple things at once. So it's like there's a lot of dudes who fit that mold. Like, and I mean clutch too. That's another thing you could throw into there. But like, I mean that's a little bit different. But
yeah.
I mean, it's Kawhi if he's healthy. It's Paul George if he's healthy. I mean, imagine if Jimmy Butler was more of a shooter and more of just like a type A scorer. Like, I mean, that would be just insane.
Yeah.
Then you're talking about Michael Jordan.
Yeah. But, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That's probably what I would say. That's my answer. Health and defense. But in no way can you be like a 10 points per game guy and just have those two things. But I really do think those two categories, that's how you win a championship. Like you could build a team around a dude who's not that. But look at most championship teams, either the best player or the second best player is typically that. Like even if you go Warriors, like Clay, defender. Like you can't really go that far down the chain on a championship team and a top 3 dude isn't a defender. Like you have to have at least one of them as a defender and like pretty damn good defender, like all NBA.
Yeah. I pretty much agree. My idea was like a shot creating wing. So that's like you said Kawhi was kind of your model that you kind of like based your archetype around. Mine was Jason Tatum. I think like a big, like you said over 6'7". I think that's a good benchmark. Big, long, and I wouldn't say it has to be like a lockdown defender, but you have to be able to step up situationally, and you can't be someone who's ever hidden. So I don't think you have to be the best defender on your team. Like a Tatum, I wouldn't say is the best defender on the Celtics, but you have to be a positive on defense. And then,
so what about like Devin Booker? Like I feel like that's kind of who you're describing a little bit. I mean, he's smaller, but you don't have to hide him. Like his defense in the playoffs this past season, like he was able to dominate. I think like he could be the best player in a championship team. I really do think. But
I agree, honestly.
He's towing the line. Like it's not like I wouldn't surefire say that. Like I'd have to like develop an argument, but like there's not a ton of dudes at his range, like top 15 wise, top 10 in the league. Below that I would say the same thing about. So he's like kind of like almost like the floor of players who are the best players on a team that can win a championship, which is a very short list. So that's not throwing shade at Devin Booker at all.
You think Damian Lillard or Devin Booker?
To start a team around?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a bias.
Sure.
I'm going to say Damian Lillard just because like his leadership is so proven. And just like, I think a lot of people who aren't Blazers fans would probably think that's like maybe a little bit crazy. But the only reason I say that is just like, just wait till he gets to a different team and gets to play with another star or two. Like you'll see why I say that. Yeah. And so
I think Damian Lillard is like at that cutoff, like the 10-ish best player in the league as well. So that's kind of why I asked that question. Yeah. I think I'd probably take Dame, but I'd say they're at a pretty similar spot in the league.
Yeah. And like the thing is too, like Dame is like kind of one of those guys. He definitely doesn't need to be hidden, but he's not like another guard isn't like dreading getting defended by him by any means because he has so much on his plate.
No, for sure.
So he's like I think we could see occasions.
Keep going, sorry. I don't know. I think like if he does get traded to the Heat, I think we're going to see Damian Lillard step up a lot on defense. I think it's obviously a hypothesis because we haven't seen it in his career, but he also hasn't had a second guard defender for one and just a good defensive roster. I guess outside of the 2019 team, but that's more of an okay defensive roster versus a good defensive roster. So I think Damian Lillard's going to end up being a good team defender on the Heat, and how much you attribute that to Damian Lillard's ability and will, or how much you attribute it to the system, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people on that end. So yeah, we'll see.
Dude, I totally agree with that. And here's a little like small caveat that I'm thinking of. So like probably like 3 months ago in the summer, I was just bored, like sitting at my sister's house in Portland. And, you know, this is what happened. It was the day after he requested a trade. And I was like massively in my Blazers feels and just like I'd made peace with the fact that he's gone. And like it's over. And like was like watching everything I could. You know what I did? I literally turned on, it was bored late at night. I turned on the game winner game against the Rockets. I think it was his second year, right? Was it his second year or was it his third year? I don't know.
I think it was the second.
I think it was his second year. And I watched, not the highlight, I watched the whole fucking game. Start to finish. And it was so enjoyable, like the nostalgia of watching LaMarcus work and just like, God, I forget how dominant he was and how automatic he was from the baseline, just like hitting those mid-range shots. And like he was honestly a pretty good defender. Like I forget that too. And he was honestly like he had athleticism that like I just like didn't really appreciate at the time. Besides the point, Dame's defense that year as a second-year player, and it was clearly because like he didn't have as much on his plate. Like nobody expected him to be like hitting a shot like that by any means, like leading up to it. And like the shots he was getting, it wasn't necessarily like all plays made for him. Like all the buckets he was getting was like he had to make them. He had to slash, like he's playing defense, getting steals. Like he put so much emphasis in defense in just that game, in that type of moment. Imagine him now with his IQ, like, and he was like visibly unbiased. He was one of the two best perimeter defenders on the court, either side of the ball, like very objectively. Like I encourage you to go back and watch that game. Like he was everywhere. And so, I mean, that's just like a very specific example, but I totally agree with you. I'm excited to see it.
For sure.
It needs to fucking happen. We need
yeah,
to stop
exactly,
this, like,
dude.
Weird, like, I don't know, getting toyed with our emotions. I don't know.
Yeah.
But all right, so I can pop into my question. God, that was a banger. I don't know if either of mine are as good as that. All right, so you actually kind of previewed it in a weird way like 5 minutes ago, but predict the matchup of the AFC Championship with the winner and the loser. Don't worry about like seeds or anything like that. Just like
okay. So it's hard to not put the Chiefs in there, and I don't think I could do that. It's just not. Is it likely that they're going to go to another one? Probably numbers-wise, no, especially how good the competition is, but I just don't have it in me to bet against the Chiefs at this point in time. They're going to be in that game. I can't go against that take. As far as the other team, there's definitely a lot of competition for that spot. A few weeks ago, I would have said the Jets. I don't know what it is. And there's no reason why I would be lower on the Jets now than I was, but I am for some reason. I'm going to go Chiefs-Bills. You know, I just thought about it as we've gotten closer to the season. I've thought about the rosters specifically with this Buffalo team, and everyone is so quick to kind of write them off after that loss to the Bengals. Everyone is so quick to say that their window is closed and that because let's be honest, they won 13 games, I believe, this year. It was a great opportunity for them to make it to the Super Bowl this year and maybe win one. And the fact that they didn't do that when you could say the script was kind of pointing in that direction, especially with the DeMar Hamlin thing, and everybody looked like
it was day one of the season against the Rams.
Yeah,
they literally
exactly
chose the Super Bowl winner, and everybody chose that. Like literally, the entire Fox panel chose the Bills, and so it was literally to a T. Like the script was pointing to them, and it was almost a meme. Like everyone was acting like it was already over. And you're right.
Yeah.
And actually, haven't even thought about this. It's the exact opposite. Like nobody's talking about the Bills right now. Everyone's wrote them off. Like they didn't do it last year. It's literally like the perfect stage this year. Last year was the worst stage because it's just like you can't win at that point when it's set like that. So you're on to something very interesting. We'll have to keep talking about this throughout the season. But
that being said, I mean, look, there's the Bengals, there's the Chargers, I think the Chargers were the other team I was thinking about. I wanted to pull the trigger. That's a little too spicy for me on today's episode, I think. But look, there's the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Jaguars, the Jets, the Dolphins. I mean, the Steelers, who knows? I mean, the AFC's loaded. There's a ton of great QB play. Who knows what's going to happen? It's probably going to end up being the two healthiest teams, probably. So we got a whole 17-game season to kind of look forward to and to change our takes on this. But my preseason take is AFC Championship, Bills versus Chiefs. You know, let's have the Bills coming out of this one. The Bills are going to the Super Bowl. That's my preseason take.
I like it because I actually agree with you. I think if that matchup gets set again, you can't let it go. If Von Miller's on the field, dude, he's going to absolutely ruin everything because they're not letting that go again. They're not letting that opportunity go again if it happens. It's like almost like the Chiefs thing or like the Chiefs-Bengals thing. It's like everyone was saying like the Bengals are going to win. The Bengals are going to win. It's like, dude, it's happened too many times. Like it's just like when you get this good, like you can't win that many times consecutively unless you're just like Tom Brady or something. But anyways,
yeah, exactly. That's the only. Well, yeah, we'll see.
I'm not gonna give a full blown prediction, but I'm just gonna give like a quick peek. Like there's something weird that just like gut feeling that's telling me that like a similar thing, but for totally different reasons. Like it's not because like everyone's written them off. It's just I just think people don't realize how good they are yet. Dude, I think the Jaguars could like if they catch the right path in the AFC playoff wise, and like I don't know, because the Chiefs can lose. 100% could lose before the AFC championship game. That's the crazy thing about the AFC. Like the Chiefs could catch the Jets, the Dolphins. They could catch. I mean, the Bengals, the Ravens. Name your pick. The Chargers, like a team in division that knows them. Like so many teams. The Bills. Like it just the list continues. Like they could catch a bad game, and let's say that Jaguars' path is all of a sudden super easy, or just like shapes out in their favor. You never know. Like that's the thing about the AFC that's so cool is like as good as it is, and as much as it usually does pan out how we think it is, like it probably will be Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, some combination. Like it's so awesome. It's gonna like anything could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so my next question for you is just what is your most interesting week 1 matchup in the NFL?
Okay, let me think about it for a second. Pull up the schedule. My gut feeling is probably going similar thought process. The opening night game. Ooh, that one's interesting. Monday night. I think Monday night is just going to be awesome.
The 9/11 game to New York, yeah. The
NFL I didn't even think about
one.
that. Yeah, it's got to be that. That's going to be insane. That's going to be awesome. Oh, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's got to be that
sleeper.
one.
Let me choose a sleeper too, just like something that like maybe people aren't thinking about. Oh, the matchups are kind of mid.
Yeah, I
Dolphins
agree.
Chargers will be good. I think Dolphins Chargers
sure.
could be interesting, especially because like we got this new Chargers coordinator, and he's going up against like arguably the most creative offensive coordinator in the league, like one of them, or not offensive coordinator, I guess head coach, and Mike McDaniels, but it doesn't matter. And so it'll be cool to see like the head-to-head play calling. So, what about you? What do you think?
I think that opening night game is really cool, dude. I think that's going to be a hammer the over. It's going to be super high scoring. I think the Lions maybe could even steal one, honestly. Last year we had what was supposed to be a game like that, and it was for the first like quarter or two, but then the Rams just were too mid, and then the Bills blew them out. But I think the Lions versus Chiefs is going to be a shootout. I was thinking another question I was potentially going to ask you was, what's your favorite prop from week 1, just off the top of your head? Like whose line is just a for sure hammer, like without knowing the lines. And I don't know the lines. I haven't looked at them yet, but I think Amon-Ra St. Brown over receptions on that Thursday night game is my favorite because I don't know, man. I think it's like 35-33 or something like that. I think it's going to be a shootout. I'm excited for it. And I think the Lions could really make some noise, dude. I would not hate betting on the Lions week 1 on opening night.
Yeah. Those are all just great games. Those are the ones I'm definitely seeking out too. And there's also just some weird ones with like some teams that we're all like kind of writing off as like kind of just mid. They're like the Saints. But like, you never know.
Yeah.
Like you never know
sure.
like the way a roster shapes up. And just to clarify real quick, I kept saying Mike McDaniels for some reason, but it's Mike McDaniel. I sound like an idiot. Sorry. Yeah, there's like a little like Eagles Patriots, like that could be interesting. Like Patriots is never an easy matchup week 1 off a bye, whatever it is. Like anytime you got people situationally like that, like that's going to be interesting. So
for sure. And there's some new offenses, some new quarterbacks we get to see. I mean, I think Packers Bears will be interesting. I think 49ers Steelers is going to be a defensive battle. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. Panthers Falcons, we could see Bryce Young in his first game. I think that's going to be cool. Some of the matchups are pretty mid. I mean, you got Cardinals Commanders in there. You got Texans Ravens is probably a blowout, but I'm so excited for week 1, man. I can't wait.
But dude, even those like matchups that just sound kind of mid, like I can totally like instantly pick an interesting player I want to see, like fantasy and just as a fan. Like you just go to like that Commanders game, like I want to see like the difference between Jahan Dotson last year and this year, and like
Yeah,
I feel like he could be like a fantasy freak that like people aren't thinking about.
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
like a 1,200-yard guy, and everyone's just like, what?
Dude,
So, like,
especially with turf toe for Terry, especially with turf toe, that's a lingering injury. I think Dawson is going to smash his ADP. I think he's going to go insane this year.
Oh, totally. You're 100% right. I think so too. So little stuff like that that'll be interesting. Yeah. All right. Cool. We'll go into I only have one more question, and it's I kind of know what your answer will probably be, but I wanted to give you like the stage to give an argument for it, just because it's like kind of funny. So, Olympic sprinter Noah Lyles. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
He said was talking about the Denver Nuggets winning the NBA championship, and like I get he's not like an NBA player, so like he's talking a little bit out of pocket, but he said world champion of what? The United States? That ain't the world. Like he's like getting pissed about how the Nuggets were calling themselves world champions because it's the NBA, it's not the world. But like I'll give you the stage to be able to give a response to that from an argument.
So the question is just like what are my thoughts on that whole spiel?
Yeah. Like what are your thoughts on it? Like how would you rebut that? Like if someone said that to you, like in casual conversation, like what would you say?
I mean, here, it was just so funny looking at the NBA players' responses. Like Kevin Durant, somebody help this brother. Like that's so funny. Drake said like he really thought he rehearsed this speech. He thought this was going to be so hard. Like that, and he was just getting and everybody he was just getting cooked by NBA players. And I mean, it makes sense why if you play in the NBA you respond that way. Here's the deal, like if you're really trying to argue semantics, like sure, but dude, come on, it's not a secret that the best players in the world play in the NBA. It's the National Basketball Association. The 4 best players in the league are not born in the USA. The best player on the most recent championship team, the 2-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, is not an American player. He's not from the United States. So it's a stupid point to make. Are you technically speaking? Because I saw like a interesting kind of counter argument to that, and it's the best. I don't really watch soccer too much, a little bit, but they say the best players in the world play in the Premier League, and that's not the World Championship. That's the Premier League Championship. But it's just like that's not like what are we arguing? You know, it's like why is that a point worth making? Why did you think that was like some crazy point that was even worth saying? Because it's just not. It's just arguing the most I don't know, the most semantics. Like that's not just. It's not worth arguing. It's just because the teams are based in America. Honestly, just for monetary reasons at that point. But basketball is a global game. The best players in the world their goal is to come to the NBA. That goal of any basketball player, no matter where you're born, is to play in the NBA. And the best players get to do that. And so to call yourself a world champion, I have no problem with it. I mean, I don't know why that would just cause someone to get triggered like that. That's a hater take, in my opinion.
It's just ridiculous. And like the soccer take, in my opinion, is just like insane to me because soccer, like the Premier League's the best, and I'm not by no means a soccer expert. Even like I would consider myself like below a 3 out of 10 soccer fan, probably 2. Like if you take like Real Madrid, like from Spain, and you have them play like a Premier League team, like there's certain years when like they could win, like when they had Ronaldo, like you know what I mean? Like there's like certain situations where like that's not the case. There has never ever been a situation. It probably never in the past, like since 1950, 60 for sure, where you could pull any team outside of the U.S. that's just like in another professional basketball league and match them up against the best team in the U.S. and it will even be within 20 points. Like in like a playoff game situation, like you can play regular season game and it might be close, but like you can argue the score or whatever. They're not winning. If it was a 7-game series, like it swept every time. Like not
Yeah.
even a question. So it's like it's so different because it's like there's not Premier League, like there's still other competing leagues, even though it's the best. There's no like it's the NBA, and then the next closest thing, like you go all the way down, like way like it's not even close.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
eighth man on like an average NBA team would be literally like the best player or an all-star in almost every single European league, like pretty much non-negotiably.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't understand
more.
why it made him so like angry and triggered, like that he had to like call out the whole NBA for that. Like I just don't I could never imagine being like seeing that and like that upsetting me, you know?
Yeah, I think it's kind of that's where like the Drake thing comes in. It's like he definitely like looked in the mirror and like I don't know, who knows? It's just a funny little question. But all right, you can close out too with yours. If you have a few, you can just rattle them off. We can do rapid fire too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those are my best questions. But now I had a more I guess like abstract question, not too like specific on a sport or anything. And that just what sport would you want to get into more and why?
Me personally, like to watch.
Yeah, like what would you want to like become more knowledgeable about? What would you want to start like following more and why?
Um, I would say baseball, just because I feel like I need to, like, just like I feel like I need to be able to have like an above, like, not be a bot about baseball, be able to have like a conversation with someone who knows baseball. You know what I mean? Like, just from like a
Yeah.
practical standpoint of like wanting to be in sports. So like, I would say that, but what I actually want, like, is just expand into the UFC. Like every single time I gain knowledge about the UFC and like fighting and build my IQ a little bit on like small things like setting up traps, like watching Adesanya and feints and all that stuff, and the way things like being able to kind of understand what's happening on the ground when people get tied up and just like the different martial arts and all that stuff. Like, dude, that is like the most rewarding sport to watch at this point in my life, where like I can learn something about it, then watch it, and like it'll actually apply. Like that is so cool to me. And so like probably also I like tennis a lot, but it's like it's like by tournament, and I kind of only like watching the U.S. Open. But that's like all I've really like bought into before. But I do think tennis is sick too.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, pretty similar answers for me. It's just like it's UFC and baseball, and they're like complete opposites for me because baseball, I very much understand the game. Like I played baseball for a lot of years of my life. I know the ins and outs of the game. I understand like different pitches and kind of the strategy that goes back and forth between pitchers and batters. I know all the rules. I'm very familiar with the game of baseball. I just following the league of the MLB, knowing the players, things like that. I could pick it up very easily if I just started following, and that's kind of why I would want to do that. It's just knowing the players and knowing the teams and the managers. It's following the MLB as a league, not necessarily following baseball as a sport. And UFC is the complete opposite. I watch most UFC events, not all of them, but I watch most main events. But I watch them purely from an entertainment standpoint. I wouldn't say I know the sport of mixed martial arts at all. I don't know the strategy that goes into it. I haven't dove that deep into just like the technical aspect of the sport. So if I could just like do that and understand the game of UFC, then I already watch it every time. That would just kind of enhance my viewing experience. And then if I could just apply my kind of baseball knowledge to just watching the sport and watching it consistently and following it and following the narratives and things like that, then that'd make for a good experience in that sport as well. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch the MLB playoffs. I'll be following that pretty closely.
Yeah.
But it's just hard regular season MLB. I've tried in the past, and the format's just it's a little inaccessible for like a casual watcher, I would say.
Yeah. Definitely. Unless you're like going to games, kind of like I've gone to 2 Diamondbacks games since I moved to Arizona. Like that's been pretty fun. But I definitely don't pay attention as much as I would if I went to like an NBA game. So like, I guess I'm kind of the inverse of you. So like same exact situation. But yeah, slowly over time, I feel like I'll build the baseball stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of inevitable. Just like throughout my lifetime, like I'll continue to learn. I just got to put in a little bit of effort. So. Cool. You got any more, or is that it?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
All right, cool. And we can close things out. We're gonna have an episode coming up. I don't know if it'll be in 2 weeks or potentially even 3 weeks, because we're want to try to prepare for it as much as we can. But we're going to be talking about conference realignment in college sports, and hopefully talk a little bit of Oregon State athletics specifically, because they're in a tough spot right now. It's just like it's almost like a way bigger scale of like the Damian Lillard situation, where like we just have no idea what's going to
Yeah.
happen, and just like we're just like sitting
Yeah.
there like sitting ducks. No pun intended. But so yeah, we'll have that coming in. Kyle, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, NFL is coming up soon, so we'll have a ton of NFL content to talk about. I know we're really excited for that. We'll get fantasy content, we'll get betting content, we'll get power rankings, things like that. I mean, the NFL is just a goose that keeps laying golden eggs for us. We'll be able to talk about that for infinite time. So really excited for that to start. It starts in 2 weeks. Besides that, we're just holding on. Off season's almost over. I know Trent's knee deep in law school right now. I'm going back to school in a few weeks, so schedules are going to be switching up, but we're still going to do our best to deliver semi-consistent content. We're going to try to do a bi-weekly schedule while we kind of get situated with our school and all that. Obviously get our priorities straight, but we're still going to do our best to stay on a consistent uploading schedule, delivering content as frequently as possible for us. And yeah,